Welcome back, everybody, to this fine Friday here at The Late Show. Ladies and gentlemen, my first guest tonight is an investigative journalist whose reporting at The New Yorker helped spark the national conversation about sexual harassment. Please welcome Ronan Farrow.
How are you?
Nice to see you again.
Lovely to see you.
Now, for the people out there who may not know, you worked on a story about Harvey Weinstein and his treatment of the women in his orbit for how long?
More than 10 months.
More than 10 months. And it was published in the October 23rd edition of The New Yorker right here. And this was just a couple of days after the New York Times. It was Jodi Kantor and Megan Twohey had published their expose of Weinstein. Now it has become a national conversation.
Yeah, that's
about the sexual abuse and the abuse of power and sexual context of powerful men against women and other men. Did you think ahead of time when you were working on this that it would extend beyond the Weinstein story?
You know, I've been asked this question a lot, and the answer is you hear an NYPD recording of a guy of that profile admitting to a sexual assault. You know very quickly it's going to be a significant story. But that said, this movement of the cascade of women in gymnastics, women in animation, women in every industry coming forward and saying enough, that's something I could have never counted on.
Now, when you were working on this story, did Weinstein's a very powerful man in the entertainment and in the media world in general, and he was not afraid to use his power, not just in these sexual situations. Like the few things I knew about Harvey were like boot stomping a reporter on, outside of a premiere because he asked an actress the wrong question or something like that, and that he was known for sort of this monstrous behavior. Did you have friends, and colleagues warn you off and say, don't do this story? It's not going to be worth it for you to do this story.
Yeah, I mean, look, there were multiple moments where people around me would sit me down and say, look, are you sure you want to keep going with this? There's a lot of pressure, and that's something that I've reported on, too. It wasn't just directed at me. It was directed at a whole range of reporters.
Were you threatened by Weinstein himself?
I was threatened with a lawsuit from his lawyers, and intermediaries did a lot of threatening and sort of menacing statements. But look,
Such as like you'll never work again kind of Hollywood stuff?
I mean, I don't want to get into the private communications on this, but yeah, menacing stuff. And you've heard kind of the legends of how he behaves, you get the idea. But fundamentally, it was very apparent early in the reporting on this that this was a public safety issue. You can't stop going if you have evidence that there's maybe an ongoing pattern of behavior that's endangering people.
No,
Well, cheer for the women who talked,
Well, that's just it. There was many people have said, like, well, listen, if you're in Hollywood, you knew that he did this. But could it be that, and because there was such a fear of reprisal, that it did not bubble up, to the public consciousness just because the pressure was so great not to face him?
Tremendous pressure, a vast machine of legal instruments, PR instruments that woman after woman talked about being challenged by as they sought to come forward.
Non-disclosure agreements.
Non-disclosure agreements, a huge part of this, and an area of law that now is being looked at really closely. There's multiple jurisdictions around the country that are saying, you know what, maybe there should be some restrictions on allowing people to purchase silence on sexual assault.
No, I agree, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's anti-First Amendment.
But the thing that was striking to me, too, is there was this particularly ugly and powerful machine aimed at securing silence, but also there's a whole range of reasons why sexual assault survivors don't come forward in every walk of life, whether it's a woman in a blue-collar job or a woman in Hollywood. There are the same profoundly personal reasons why it is sometimes almost impossible to come forward. They fear career repercussions, they fear what their families will think, and one of the things that was most inspiring to me is after hearing about this wall of friends and loved ones saying, don't talk, hearing about the exceptions and how powerful those were. When someone says, actually, you should do this, and that can be healing, and that can help others.
No, you were doing this originally for NBC, and they didn't want to broadcast the report that you had come up with, so you took it to The New Yorker. how much sooner would you have been able to talk about this if NBC had broadcast? When was that supposed to be on?
You know, look, I've been working on the story for a long time. A lot of explosive things were early in the reporting process. There may be more to say about the NBC piece of this with time. Right now, we're in this moment where this flood of women is still, very much in progress. People are coming forward and they're doing a brave thing, and I think it's important to keep the focus on them.
So July?
It's not just a line. Like, I'm leery of, nobody wants to become the story when you're a reporter.
I understand.
And this really is about them doing a brave thing.
Part of this story is the story not being told for so long. And you experienced the story not being told, and there may be valid. What was the reason you were given? How about that?
Look, here's what I would say on this.
Were you given any reason?
He's a tough interviewer. You make a fine investigative reporter, Stephen
Thank you very
Colbert.
much. Thanks very much.
So here's what I would say on that. Look, it is very clear, if you look at this story and how long it stayed quiet, that it is of the utmost importance that any news organization that has damning evidence of ongoing criminal activity needs to run that, needs to investigate it and interrogate it and run it. And that's what I'll say about that.
Okay. Though this is a moment where people are embracing openness and the courage of these women, do you happen to know if any of these women are, you don't have to name names, but are facing any price for what they've done already?
Yeah, I mean, look, you don't have to search far. That's all out there in the public. Asia Argento is one actress who told a really brave story. Brave particularly because not only was there a brutal allegation, but also she went back afterwards, as sexual assault survivors often do. There are sexual assaults by bosses and, spouses and people that you're close to and people enmeshed in your career, and she went back and she told all of that in all its complexity. I admire that tremendously. She has been run out of her native country, Italy, and the conservative press there.
Wait, why?
These commentators saying that she was asking for it, that, that this was her fault, just shaming.
Well, now you've done a second article, and I understand there's a third article. Can you tell us anything about what part of the story hasn't been told yet?
Look,
or from what you've investigated?
Yeah, this machine that was so instrumental in keeping this quiet as long as it was quiet. And look, people have asked, how could this many allegations have stayed undercover this long? I think there's much more to be said about just how far that went.
I mean, the people who aided and abetted it, how this was sort of institutionalized in Hollywood.
In ways that, honestly, I didn't even fathom going into this. And that's not just Hollywood, Stephen. That's people with power and money in this country and the way they wield it in every industry.
Well, this is not the first powerful Hollywood man that you have talked about sexually abusing people. You have talked about Woody Allen for years. And those accusations, as far as I can tell, and I don't know Mr. Allen, but have been like pennies against a battleship. There's been no effect.
A battleship that has been in therapy for many, many years.
Okay. Woody Allen has denied these allegations.
Denied, not convicted.
Okay. Do you think that this conversation that you and others have helped spark about Harvey Weinstein, a powerful, inassailable man, will in some ways change the conversation that Woody Allen has to face?
Look, there was no direct link in the sense that there was some personal connection there that motivated me to look at this story. It was an assignment I received, and I actually didn't know about it until then.
Okay.
What was instrumental in linking these two things and helping drive me during this story was sexual assault was an issue that had touched my family, I understood over time the importance of confronting it honestly and the importance of tough, meticulous reporting in exposing these kinds of crimes. In my case, I was for many years one of the people around a victim of sexual assault saying, why bother coming forward more? What it'll achieve? It's just going to, bring shame and trouble, and it's a powerful guy. And it was a long process of my realizing, no, the fact that she wants to speak is something important ethically. And I, as a reporter, too, whether you're looking at Bill Cosby or Roger Ailes or Harvey Weinstein, have to get tougher. We all have to get tougher.
Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you,
I look forward to the next article. Ronan Farrow, everybody. When we come back, the star of Marvel's latest movie. It's an exclusive. Don't go anywhere.